You're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, members of Parliament, flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Akufo-Addo, and elder statesmen today paid their last respects to the late Abuakwa North MP, JB Danquah at the state funeral. The solemn ceremony saw JB Danquah lay in state, while many who thronged the forecourt of Parliament House filed past to say their final words to him. The lawmaker was murdered at his home some weeks ago after he suffered several knife wounds. Our parliamentary correspondent, Elton Broby, covered the event and joins me in the studio. It's been a very quiet day, especially at Parliament House. Elton, I can imagine that this ceremony was a very solemn one. Yeah. Many were clad in red and black. But tell us, walk us through what happened today at the state funeral.
Well, yeah, like you said, today was the state funeral for the late Member of Parliament. So, as it turned out, the President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama, was, for want of a better word, I want to describe him as the chief mourner for the event today. He came in the company of the Vice President, also in attendance were two former Presidents, John Kufuor and John Rawlings, together with the Speaker of Parliament, the CJ, and few other dignitaries. They were all there to pay their last respect to this Member of Parliament. So, because it was a state funeral, right after the funeral service, the body was taken to the hometown of the late MP, and later this evening they're going to hold a watch night service, or work keeping as is usually termed, till Saturday morning, where they will then undertake another service to formally, bury him, and then the Thanksgiving service will be on Sunday to bring closure to this, 4 days of mourning.
Okay. So for the many individuals, the high-ranking individuals who came for today's state funeral, what were some of the things they said in eulogizing JB Danquah?
I think for one thing run through all the presentations that were said about him, the fact that throughout his life, the 51 years that he spent on this earth, he came across as a unifier. Indeed, all those who read tribute on his behalf mentioned that, focused their attention on that particular word, that he was a unifier. Indeed, in Parliament, I can even testify to the fact that he was not really your type of a Member of Parliament who you always see on the floor of Parliament arguing his case out. He came across as somebody who was always ready to reach out to members on the opposite side. Remember that he first came to Parliament in 2005 during the Kufuor administration. At some point, he was made a Deputy Minister for Gender and Children's Affairs. He lost out during the 5th Parliament, but came back in the 6th Parliament. Unfortunately, he will not see to the end of his term as a Member of Parliament for Abuakwa North.
Right. So let's take one out of the other. You've already mentioned that the President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama, was the chief mourner for today's funeral. What were his words in remembrance of JB Danquah?
His statements was communicated by the Science and Environment Minister Mahama Yariga. It was not more than 2 minutes in terms of delivery, but it captured everything that had happened in the morning. The government statement described him as an affable person, somebody who was always willing to contribute to the development of the country, irrespective of which party was in power. And he did so in Parliament throughout his stay. And indeed, in his life as a businessman as well, he was always able and ready to help in the advance or in the nation's approach to ensuring that the business environment was conducive for the growth of the private sector.
Okay, so that's for the chief mourner and the president. What about the flag bearer of the MPP, Nana Akufo-Addo? I just saw him with the running mate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, at the event. What were his words?
Well, for him, Nana Akufo-Addo, JB Danquah believed in the rules of the MPP, the Danquah-Buzia tradition. And it is no surprising because I'm sure you are aware that he came from the Danquah-Buzia, family line. He was a grandson. So for Nana Akufo-Addo, the party has lost, again, a unifier in this case, and that they should use the death of the MP to come together as one because remember they are fighting to win political power in 2016. But he was particularly, if he focused it on the fact that if you are looking at the role he played in bringing together feuding factions within the MPP, especially in the Abuakwa North constituency when the constituency was divided, because at some point Nana Akufo-Addo himself represented the people of Abuakwa in Parliament. When it was divided, Atachia took the southern part and JB Danquah took the northern part. But they worked together because Nana Akufo-Addo at some point led that particular constituency. So he worked with him, and the last time they met, it was 2 days before he was murdered by the assailant, when JB Danquah went to his house to inform him about the death of a relation of his wife. And that was the last time they met. And then on the 9th day of February, he was told about the gruesome murder of this MP. Okay. For him, he paid his dues as a member of parliament, as an indigent of the Abuakwa state, and for that reason, he will be remembered for as long as it will take. Okay.
One other person I need to, at this point, ask is the Speaker of Parliament. This is a man he may have worked with very closely.
Absolutely.
And also has some few words to share, isn't it?
The Speaker would not speak directly. His words, which represents Parliament and institution of Parliament, was, paid by the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jogate. Now, for this member of Parliament, remember that he served on various committees in Parliament, the Trade and Industry Committee, the Special Budget, the Business Committee, as well as the Public Accounts Committee, because of his background as a chartered accountant. For many people who worked with him during his time in Parliament, on the floor of Parliament, there isn't much that you can talk about, but for his contribution during the committee sitting, some MPs will tell you that he was very particular about government doing more for the private sector, and it's no surprising because he himself was neck deep in business, apart from the fact that he also was a politician. So in the tribute read on behalf of Parliament and institution, they quoted in the parliamentary hands that some of the contributions he made during the committee meetings on the floor. But one thing that people would remember him for was the yearly tribute he would pay to the late JB Danquah during his Remembrance Day and all those issues. And again, they spoke about the fact that he was always willing to reach out to the opposite side. The majority leader, for example, Alban, in his tribute before Parliament went on that recess, which I'm holding right now, talks about the fact that anytime he was on the floor, he would come to him first to discuss matters of interest. The majority chief whip told me that the last statement he read on behalf of the caucus to commemorate the birthday of JB Danquah, when he first discussed the speech with the leadership of Parliament, they realized that it had 7 pages. They asked him to go and reduce it, and he told them that reducing it may take days. So in the presence of them, he decided to cancel most of the things in the speech. So for them, he was somebody who was never ready to foment trouble. He was always willing to ensure that peace prevailed, and for that reason, they will miss him a lot.
Okay, that's for Parliament as an institution and their own tribute to JB Danquah today. And as we mentioned earlier, a lot of high-ranking officials were there to pay their last respects to JB Danquah. I saw the man in grey, former President Jerry John Rawlings there. Was it another boom speech from him, or was it quite a solemn one?
No, not really. I approached him together with other media houses. We wanted an interview. He would not speak to us, saying that he would rather speak to us on Tuesday. I don't know what is happening. And then I don't know what is happening this week, Tuesday, that he wants to speak to us about. But he said that he is more than convinced that as a nation, we are not really protecting the innocent. He thinks that more should be done to people who, commit some of these crimes. For him, and he was not categorical on the kind of punishment that should be meted out to such individuals when we have our court system to deal with cases of this nature. He thinks that more should be done in dealing with such individuals than what is happening right now. Otherwise, the state may not be in a position to protect the innocent, because people cannot commit crime and then, as we've been told, somebody is saying that he's allergic to a certain kind of food and all that. He thinks that it is not the best and that we should take a proactive step to deal with this particular once and for all. But it's just Tuesday, so we don't know what's going to happen until we have to wait till Tuesday before you tell us what will happen.
Okay. I can't talk about Jerry Rawlings without talking about the wife. Did the wife also say anything else?
The wife was there, but she will not speak to us. The other persons we spoke to, former President Kufuor left immediately after the service, so he escaped our cameras. But Paul Afoko, Alan Chemanthen, Nana Akufo, they were all there. I mean, they shared some few words with us. For somebody like Paul Afoko, JB Danquah was one of his campaign coordinators in the run-up to him becoming the elected chairman of the party in Tamale.
I see.
So they work closely, and he knows him so well. He knows about the fact that he was always willing to bring the opposing sides to the side of Mr. Paul Afoko. So he was quite devastated. He told me that he's lost a unifier. So I asked him a pointed question whether his death will mark the beginning of the party coming together for a common cause, because obviously within the MPP's front, they are not so much united. He says that, well, if that would be the way to go, he will support it. But for now, the party should look at using the death of JB Danquah to come together as one. And this point was re-echoed by former Defense Minister Mr. Kwame Adokofo, who says that politicians should use the death of JB Danquah because for him, the fact that the president and his entourage came, MPP people came, signifies that the man led a life that was appreciated by both sides of the political divide, and people should use us whilst advancing their political cause.
Okay. Now, Elton, I've heard of many people and what they said. I just want to quickly pick your thoughts. You are someone who's covered a lot of this parliamentary business. You also know him personally. Yeah. What's your personal tribute to him?
Well, he was a good person. I remember the first time I ever spoke to him was in 2013, when I had the opportunity to travel for the Ghana Investment Promotion Center to Dubai. It was the annual investment meeting, and he was then serving on the Trade and Industry Committee, so he was there in that capacity. And he spoke to me about the fact that the young people should not always look up to government for employment. Once you are out of tertiary education, you should be in a position to create something for yourself. And then his suggestion was that the state should be able to create an enabling environment that will make businesses flourish. So we shouldn't always look at government providing jobs for, but we should look at creating jobs for ourselves, and by so doing employing people and putting smiles on the faces of their dependents. I thought that was instructive, and I'll always remember him for that. On Parliament, on the floor, like I said early on, he was not your normal member of Parliament who was always on the floor speaking. You will hardly find him there. At the committee level, he contributed effectively on the floor. He was not always as frequent as you will find other members of Parliament. I think that the legislature will miss such an individual.
It looks like you miss him. I can see tears already in your eyes.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Alton Bob. He's our parliamentary correspondent with details of how the state today paid their last respects to JB Danquah, the late member of Parliament for Abuakwa North.